Intervista Joe Dante, pronti?
Going ahead without your DP, huh?
Yeah, I have to thank the two videos.
Well, I never worry about the audience's trust because I essentially make movies just for myself. Any filmmaker who makes movies for some imagined audience out there, it can get lost. If it pleases me, then that's what I do. And I've always looked at life as a combination of horror and beauty. And I find horror films are particularly susceptible to adding humor, because if you don't add your own humor, the storylines are so absurd that people will they'll find their own humor and laugh in places you don't want them to laugh. Well, one of the things Roger told all the young filmmakers was that the most important thing to do while making a movie was to sit down, which is interesting because he never supplied any chairs because he was very parsimonious. Basically, I learned film grammar from Roger Corman. I started as an editor, and I think editing is the best way for a director to learn about how movies are made, because when you are hired to direct a scene, if you've already edited a scene, you already know what's needed and when you can cut to this, when you can cut to that. And I started with trailers. We have to take an existing scene, you have to reduce it down to like maybe 20 seconds and still have it make sense. So when you look at the original scene, you see, oh, it didn't need this angle, it didn't need this angle. So when you get on the set yourself, you know that you don't have to shoot shots you're not going to use. And of course, the one thing that you try to do with an independent movie is to save money and not spend a lot of time on things that aren't going to be in the movie. So it was extremely useful, and I'm far from the only person who will tell you that who went through the Roger Corman Film School. Well, I do love movie history, and all the movies I've made have connections with the movies that I've already seen. And so, for instance, when I made a werewolf movie, The Howling, or Lulato, I wanted to place it firmly in the tradition of previous werewolf movies, but I also wanted to show that there were new ways to go. And so if you look at my films, you can find all these references in the corners to other movies that I've seen, and the ways that I've sort of tried to use the work of other people to assimilate into my own.
Okay. So for the next question, I sit close to you because I got a nice t-shirt. So I show you directly the answer because it's important. So it's about Rock and Roll High School. So it's a cult film for me and for many people.
Is he all right?
Hey, pizza! Great. What are you doing here?
Oh, these are my songs. I've been trying to get them to you for the longest time.
Hey, it's Rick Randall. I'm number one fan.
Oh, wow, he remembered my name.
This is the big time, girlie. This is rock and roll.
Well, my friend Alan Arkish and I were the trailer department at New World Pictures for Roger Corman. And there were two projects that Roger had. One was Rock and Roll High School and one was Piranha. I thought Rock and Roll High School was a much better idea for a movie than Piranha, but Alan was crazed to do it because he was a big music fan. And so we put together, we talked the script into a tape recorder. And eventually it became the movie. But the big question in the movie was, who is going to be the band? And Roger had originally wanted to make a picture called Disco High. And we had to explain to Roger that disco music was, it's not right. It was rock and roll.
Right? So disco music sucks. I want to know.
It was supposed to be rock and roll.
Okay.
And so then they said, well, we'll get the Clash. And I think they couldn't afford them. And the Ramones were this up-and-coming group that was everything your parents warned you against, which was perfect for this movie. So within the confines of this rather pleasant little teenage romance, there are these disrupting forces of the Ramones, who were big and dark and tall and monosyllabic, and but whose music was really good. And they were getting to know the Ramones on that movie, which I only worked on for the last couple of weeks because Alan got sick. But getting to know those guys was really one of the perks of being in Hollywood. You know, there are certain people that you meet in your career and you go, boy, I was really lucky to meet that person. And the Ramones were, well, they're gone now, but they were really a force of nature.
Test pilot Tuck Pendleton wants to make history. Supermarket clerk Jack Putter needs a vacation.
Jack, you're late. That's not good. You know it's coupon day.
Lieutenant Pendleton is about to be miniaturized, placed into this needle, and then injected into this rabbit.
Rock and roll.
But something went wrong, and Tuck's about to get a new destination. Inside Jack Putter.
Well, digital effects, digital is great. It's a wonderful tool. It doesn't replace the old-fashioned ways of doing them, which were, on Interspace, we didn't have a lot of opticals. We had forced perspective. When characters had to shrink and be in the back of a car and the other characters are in the foreground, our actors would be in the front and there would be a giant car behind them and the other actors would be way in the back, which made them look small. So it was all done in the camera. And most of that movie was done that way. But if I had done Gremlins, for instance, today, I could still do the puppets on stage with the actors, because the actors like to be able to relate to things on the stage. But then we could do another pass with CGI and take away the puppeteers. So instead of having the puppeteers under the ground and behind the wall and we could just put them right next to the puppets and they could do the work and do good puppetry, and then just take one more take without them and then combine them all and get rid of the puppeteers and have just puppets. So it's a wonderful tool, but I don't think it replaces the tried and true techniques that have come down to us through so many years of great filmmaking. Well, I've always thought music was an extremely good part of making films. And there are some very good movies that have no music at all, but music is a great tool. And my first two movies were done by Pino Donaggio, but he was in Italy and I was in America, and it was very difficult to collaborate that way. And when Pino went on to do other things, Jerry Goldsmith was assigned to the Twilight Zone movie that I was doing, and that's where I first met Jerry. We got along very well, and I asked him to do Gremlins, and he came in with this Gremlins theme, which he played on the piano, and it sounded to me like circus music, and I couldn't quite figure out what he had in mind. And then I learned the difference between hearing something on the piano and imagining what it's like when it's got an orchestra behind it. And so Jerry and I collaborated on more projects than any other director with Jerry. I was one, Franklin Schaffner had one less than I did. And that's because we really like each other. And I'm not a musician, I don't read music, but I know what I like. And we just hit it off. And he was, a large degree of my success, I think, is based on the fact that Jerry Goldsmith's music is on my movie. Well, every movie I've ever seen has influenced me. And I can't point to a single movie and say, well, if I hadn't seen that movie, I wouldn't be making movies. But there's so many movies that I've learned from, so many directors, so many cinematographers, so many writers. It's very hard to pin anybody down. But I was a huge fan of Sergio Leone. I was a huge fan of Hitchcock. And Orson Welles and Kurosawa, and I mean, you just go back and, you know, I think younger people today are missing out on great history by not going back to the movies that were made before they were born, because I know they feel that they're irrelevant to them. But there's many great things to learn from the old masters.
Welcome to Mayfield Place. A typical street in the burbs.
Morning, Walter!
Where nothing much ever happened.
Walter's dog just took a dump on Rumsfield's lawn again.
Until the Klopeks moved in.
Klopex?
Klopex. Klopek.
No one goes in, no one comes out.
Neighbors from hell.
Well, when I was a kid, there was always a family, no matter what neighborhood you lived in, that everybody was afraid of. And there was always a house on the street that was a little dilapidated, and maybe people weren't sure who lived there, and you certainly didn't want to go there on Halloween. And these urban legends would spring up about various people in various neighborhoods. And when I was making the movie, we talked among the crew, and it was surprising how many of them had lived in a neighborhood like that, and how many of them had neighbors that they didn't trust or they thought were up to no good. And so that struck me as kind of comic. And although the producers of this movie thought that it was a parody of Rear Window because somebody looks out their window in it, I thought of it more as a kind of an urban horror comedy and the character. And because it was shot during a writer's strike, there's a tremendous amount of improvisation in the movie. Almost half the script is not what was written; it was what people just said, and that made it a lot of fun. Also, we shot it during the writer's strike, so that was the reason we couldn't have a writer there to rewrite. We just had to make it all up. And we were at Universal during the tour period, where the Universal has this big tour where they take tourists through the what do you call it, the studio, and our street, which is up the hill, is above the Jaws ride, and the Jaws ride has, you know, the tram goes by, and then somebody says, "Oh no, Joe, it's a monster," and we could hear that all the time. So you'd have to stop shooting when they came, and because the tour made more money for the studio than any movie. So they were much more interested in making the tour people happy because they pay a lot of money to sit in that tram. And so it took a longer time to make the movie than we thought because we had to wait a long time. Well, I was the same age as the protagonist of Matinee, and I was around during the Cuban Missile Crisis when everybody thought the world was going to end that weekend and that there was going to be no school on Monday or ever. And we went through our lives. We behaved, but everyone was terrified. And when this story came up, I thought, well, I lived in New Jersey, so, you know, but this story is set in Key West where the action was. So we set the story there and added the idea of a filmmaker who's coming to town with his new horror film to take advantage of the fear that is going on among the populace. And there's a lot of me in that movie. There's a lot of my experiences, a lot of my friends. A lot of the art direction and stuff is stuff from my childhood. The drawings on the wall of the kids' room, they're all my drawings. So it was a very personal movie for me. Now, I had a little brother just the same age as the little brother in the movie. But I never, unfortunately, had a big filmmaker come to my town and premiere his movie. But aside from that, it's all biographical. Hollywood is very risk averse. It has always been risk averse, but now it's really risk averse because, first of all, the movies cost so much money. Secondly, nobody knows what's going on in the business anymore after COVID and after streaming. People make movies, they don't even know where they're going to be shown or even if they're going to get released. So basically, you just have to take it day by day and hope that a project that you have can get funded. And then if it gets funded, it can get made. And then once it gets made, it gets seen and means distributed. A lot of things don't get distributed. The movies are finished and they just sit on a shelf and nobody sees them. So it's a very rocky time. It's a very uncertain time, as it is politically in America. So it's not just Hollywood, it's the whole country that at the moment is at sixes and sevens and doesn't really know what's up.
Okay, now I have to do it. I need something about Gremlins. But I repeat, I love it, but a lot of people, my friends will be, so say something about Gremlins, or something special for the Italians, for Christmas, I don't know.
I can say that if it wasn't for Gremlins, I wouldn't be sitting here getting interviewed, because it was the biggest hit I ever had. And also I was interested last night, they ran the dubbed Italian version here. And my theory is that one of the reasons the movie was so successful worldwide is that every single territory we rewrote and redubbed with the dialogue and slang from the territory. In the bar scene in Germany, they sing German beer songs, you know, but they're just different songs than they sing in the Spanish version and the French version, the Italian version. Everything was different, and all the pop culture references were based entirely on what country It was. It took a lot of writing and a lot of work, but I think it paid off. I think it was when people felt it was their movie, and I think that's one of the reasons that, to everyone's astonishment, it has survived for so long as a popular movie.
Yeah, the script was from the writer of The Goonies too, or no?
That's true. Yes, yes. It was his first script. It was a spec script he wrote. He didn't even write it thinking it would be produced. It was just to show what he could do. And Steven Spielberg saw it and wanted to make it, but he didn't realize it was going to be so expensive. He thought he could make it really cheap, which is why he hired me. But then it turned out that in order to make a movie that was going to justify the expense, we had to homogenize it a little bit, so it's not as horrific as the original script, which was much more gruesome than the movie itself.
Thank you.